Okay, here's our new book, Trino's Choice, Diane Gonzalez Bertrand. Chapter 1. Trino had to run or die. Hands clenched into fist, he ran through the hot dust that stuck to his tongue and made his eyes burn. He cut through the alley behind the old Texaco. He didn't stop to read the new tags from the local gangs that grunched up the back walls. Tall brown weeds whipped against his jeans as his open blue shirt flapped behind him like a sheet on the clothesline. Then he heard the whistle and knew they weren't far behind. He cursed his stupidity for running this way. Just fields and the highway ahead. They checked the Texaco first, then find him panting like a dog in the middle of the field. This was no good. Trino saw buildings to his left in the distance, a line of brown adobe buildings with rows of dry straw as a roof. He ran towards them, though. He knew they were only pitiful shops for tourists who thought South Texas coyotes were bandanas and everybody had a barbed wire cactus in his front yard. A few cars were parked in the gravel lot, but nobody was walking around. He wondered where to hide. Nelda's looked like a woman's shop. As soon as he'd go in, the owner would give him the Ojo, Socorro, Bazar. Sounded like a place to buy a cement burro or ugly piñatas. What for? Fito's tacos made him hungry, but it was a lousy place for hiding. The place on the corner was a shop called the Book Basket. He slowed as he neared the porch. The porch boards were warped and there was a bunch of tourist junk on the walls, but it looked like it might be air-conditioned. The door handle stuck into his hand as he pushed it down. It didn't budge. So he pushed his shoulder into the red door and got it open. He blinked at the darkness, a big difference from the sunshine he had been running through. There wasn't much light to see with. Only a string of red jalapeno light bulbs running around this room, small like a closet. Quickly, he glanced over the shelves on the back wall. Certain books were leaning against the wall, their front covers facing him. He saw some T-shirts on a rack to his left, and then he spotted the square cash register sitting on an L-shaped counter that hooked into a glass case that held clay pots and turquoise jewelry. The place looked empty, or else the owner was in the back someplace. Was there enough time to hit the cash? He could get something out of this rotten day after all. Trino had only taken one step towards the counter when he heard, "Hi, can I help you?" A short, colorless figure suddenly appeared and faced him down. Trino realized it was a white lady with messy, light hair and fat cheeks. She was wearing something gray, shirt and pants, and it wasn't until she stepped closer that he smelled the faint odor of flowers. "Got a lot of books here. What kind you looking for?" She moved herself between him and the cash register, and because Trino was her height, she could stare him in the eye. He didn't blink, but his mind was whizzing. Was she alone here? Could he shove her down and get the money and be out before the guy showed up? Maybe he could buy his way out of the mess he was in. "Hey, I know," the lady said, moving her face even closer. Trino felt a fire boiling in his stomach and got control of his head. He wanted to get out of this place. Fast. He stepped back, ready to run out, but the lady locked a finger onto his shirt pocket. "You're one of those kids who's doing a book report on Rivera's book, right? I just got some copies in yesterday. Come on." She turned to go someplace, tugging him along. "I was in the back eating my lunch. Stick around. I'll show you where the books are." Trino should have called her something and left, but when the lady pulled him, he realized there was another room where the air was cooler. She was taking him into it. Hiding here wouldn't be too bad, even if he had to fake it, like he had to do a book report. She seemed dumb enough to believe somebody like him would even care about a book. Down a lumpy ramp, she led him into a second room. 2 uncovered bulbs hung from the wooden slats under the straw ceiling. He saw shelves of books around the walls and corner tables with books laid out. They had colored, shiny covers and bright pictures. Kids' books for teachers, he figured. Books he could never take home from school when he was a kid because his little brothers would tear up the pages and then the teachers would yell at him. More trouble he didn't need. The next room was bigger, and it had long, skinny fluorescent bulbs. Above that gave lots of light and also showed how many books could get stuffed into one place. Bookshelves were all over the walls, books jammed together like wooden fences. There were books in boxes. Their spines facing up so he could see the titles. Books were lined into plastic milk crates, and more were in some wooden crates that had pictures of grapefruits painted on them. Books were stuck into tall metal racks that spun around. There was even a shopping basket with no wheels that books were piled into. 2 scratched up wooden chairs with straw seats stood next to a flowery blue table in one corner. The table had a few books tossed on it, as if somebody had looked through them, but decided not to waste the money after all. I got the book you need on the second shelf over, the lady said, gesturing with a white hand that bore no jewelry. Look around, I'll be back. She left Trino standing in the middle of the room. It was the best place he could have chosen to hide, and he could only laugh. He wondered if there was anything better than books in this place and started snooping. He found a pair of red vinyl bean bags behind the shopping cart and dragged them into a spot behind the racks. If he sat in the corner, pretending to read a book, maybe the gringa would leave him alone. It was cool here, easy to fall asleep. Hey, came a voice from behind him. Trino kicked the bags and turned around, fists clenched. I sometimes kick them a little to get them comfortable, too. Trino felt both mad and stupid. The white lady had just scared the spit out of him, but now she stood holding a can of red soda and an egg. She extended her hands towards him. Can't offer you much, but I don't mind sharing. His eyebrows pressed down into his nose. No, he growled. Then after a pause said, no, thanks. Can't enjoy a good book without a snack. Granny Wagner taught me that. Her squinty eyes widened into blue circles. Take the food and tell me later what you think of the book. She lowered her hand as if she would drop the egg into his lap if he didn't take it. So he grabbed onto the hard, cold egg and the icy soda. He liked the cool, wet feel of them, especially with his mouth still tasting dust and his stomach empty since last night. Scratching her fuzzy reddish head, the lady wandered back into another room. Trino flopped himself into the beanbags and relaxed. He opened up the soda and took a long swig of it. The soda seemed to sting his throat as it rinsed out the dusty fear that had brought him to this place. He found a narrow hole between the wall and the floor that was a great place to drop the pieces of eggshell as he unpeeled the hard-boiled egg. He was munching down the egg, looking up and behind him, when he noticed the cracks of sunlight in the form of a rectangle. He realized he was sitting in front of a door, or a spot of the wall that used to be a door. He raised his fingers to a nearby crack and felt the hot air press into his skin. A shiver slid down his back and he washed it away with another long drink of soda. With nothing else to do, Trino's eyes started to focus in on the titles of the books lined up at his level. He grabbed one from the shelf and looked at the front door. There was a picture of a blackbird carrying a rosary in its beak. The author's name was Morlos, like his uncle's. Trino opened up a page in the middle and started reading about a curandero, a healer who cured a village of evil spirits. Trino couldn't pronounce some of the words, but he liked the suspense. He understood why the town could be so scared of the evil sign that had appeared on a mountaintop. Trino's heart shook with excitement as he read through the description of how the curandero mixed potions and chanted prayers. The emotions of the characters grew intense. Even the ground under Trino seemed to tremble as an evil spirit tried to hold fast to its claim. Angry voices on the other side of the wall sent the evil spirit flying right into Trino's backbone. He sat up, tossing the book aside. Up on one knee, he peeked through one of the cracks. He saw little more than legs, pairs of faded jeans, and dirty shoes. Could he have gone inside here? What, for a book? Books and a crazy old lady? Valdo says the place is like a coffin inside. Still, we should check it out. Trino hunched down just in case the guys could somehow peek in. He felt a cold sweat at the back of his neck. He looked around nervously, wishing for something he could use as a weapon. Books, worthless books. I found this biography of Rivera. Did you lose something? The lady had reappeared with a fat brown book in her hands. Trino wished he could take the book and slap it against Rosca's rat face right now. Only Rosca was on the other side of the wall, and Trino was right here and with this crazy book lady, scared to say something that might be heard through the cracks in the wall. Quickly, he shook his head. Trino hunched his shoulders together, feeling like a dumb dog in the street, just waiting to get hit by a car. Oh, okay, she said, then opened up the book. I thought if you needed some background on Rivera for your book report, you could read something out of this. Teachers like this kind of stuff, you know. Always good for extra credit. Extra credit always help for report cards, right? Her words gave him a headache, but his own words could get him killed. So Trino nodded again and just pulled the book from her hands. He didn't look into her face at all and definitely wanted to avoid those eyes of her, so blue and sharp they could probably slit tires. Wanting to get away from the cracks in the wall where the guys might still be, Trino carried the book to the straw chair and flowered table and sat there instead. Visualized. He had just set his eyes upon the cover, a picture of some guy named Tomas Rivera, when he heard boys' voices in the other room. Book lady, he thought. We're both in deep trouble now.